Though we've heard this story hundreds of times, it still takes our breath away. We're meant in a way, I think, to identify with all the main characters in the story. All of these sinners who in different ways contribute to the death of Jesus. In the cross of Jesus, we see our own sin mirrored back to us. But there's one character I want to focus on in this brief homily, and that's Pontius Pilate. So Jesus stands before Pilate, and he says, I've come to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice. And Pilate famously responds, truth, what's that? It makes him, I think, a very relevant figure to our own time. How many people today say some version of just that? What is truth? You got your truth, I got my truth, they have their truth. Who are we to be imposing our truth on anybody else? Isn't everything relative at the end of the day? There's no absolute criterion of good and evil. Come on. What is truth? Well, see, what happens, fellow sinners, when we bracket the truth, what do we have left? We have left the play of powerful wills. When there's no appeal possible to the objectively good or true, all we have are people competing and fighting against each other. All we have left is fear and egotism and rivalry. The war of all against all. And don't we see it, in fact, in Pontius Pilate himself? Truth, what's that? Therefore, he moves into fear of losing his job, fear of what Caesar might do, fear of the mob, fear of the crowd, fear of what the other officials might say. Justice, what's right, what's true, who cares? What's that? It's the short road, in fact, to moral chaos. Do you want to hear the echo of Pontius Pilate? Look at the totalitarianisms of the last century that bracketed precisely those questions of the objectively just and good and true. What followed was moral chaos on a massive scale. In some ways, Pontius Pilate here is the patron saint of that attitude. I'm going to date myself in this reference, but there might be some in this room old enough to remember the musical Jesus Christ Superstar. There's a song from that show I've always liked. It's Pontius Pilate prior to his confrontation with Jesus. And he's having kind of a fever dream about this event. And he says, the room is full of wild and angry men. They seem to hate this man. They fell on him and then they disappeared again. But then I saw, Pilate continues, thousands of millions crying for this man. And then I heard them mentioning my name and leaving me the blame. I think what's in the mind of Andrew Lloyd Webber as he wrote that lyric, all the Christians up and down the centuries reciting the creed, crucified under Pontius Pilate, crucified under Pontius Pilate, crucified under Pontius Pilate, thousands of millions crying for this man and mentioning his name and leaving him the blame. Yes, moral chaos follows from the bracketing of the truth. Now, this is Good Friday. I don't want to leave you just with that bad news. This same vacillating Pilate, this same Pilate indifferent to the truth, going back and forth between warring parties, that same Pilate has one moment, did you notice, of great clarity in this story. There's one moment where he takes a definite stand. He decrees that over the cross of Jesus should be a sign. Jesus Nazarenus Rex Judaeorum. Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. And the Jewish officials are scandalized. No, don't write that. You should say he just claimed to be King of the Jews. He's not really the King of the Jews. And Pilate, in his great moment of clarity, says, Quod Scripsi, Scripsi. What I've written, I've written. It's curious, isn't it? Because of his adamant stance there, Pontius Pilate becomes the first great evangelist. Because I don't know if our cross here has the sign. Does it over? I can't see. But in Latin, Hebrew, and Greek, going out to all the relevant nations, the announcement of the kingship of Jesus. See, here's the lesson, everybody, part of the goodness of today. No matter how badly we sin, and this man is a very bad sinner. Yes, indeed, thousands of millions over the years, putting the blame on him. Right. But see, God can bring, even from the worst of our sins, grace. God can use, yes, even the worst of our attitudes for his own purposes. So see, here's the lesson, again, fellow sinners in this room. Let's just give up trying to resist him. We stand to thwart God's purposes. He'll use it anyway for his own good. Surrender to God. Stop resisting him. But let me take one more step with Pontius Pilate, because again, it's Good Friday today. Is it possible that somewhere deep down in his soul, even as he vacillates, even as he says, what is truth, even as he just lives in fear, is it possible that somewhere deep down in his soul, Pilate sensed, this is the King of the Jews. Yes, this is the Son of God. Yes, this is the very truth standing right in front of me. And you think maybe when he said, Quod Scripsi, Scripsi, what I've written, it was something good deep down in him that was saying, no, I want to announce to the world the kingship of Jesus. Do you know there's an ancient tradition, it's in the Abyssinian church and some of the other Eastern Christian churches, that Pontius Pilate converted, joined the faith, and became a saint. He's even honored in some of these churches as a saint. Well, why not? This is Good Friday. See, is it possible, fellow sinners, that as we stand before the cross of Jesus today, and listen, we see mirrored back to us our own sin, and there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. In the cross of Jesus, we see our own sin, our own injustice, our own stupidity, our own violence, our own cruelty. We see it. We can't run from it. But is it possible that as that sin is mirrored back to us, we also gaze into the merciful and forgiving eyes of the crucified Christ? And that it awakens deep down in us, despite our sin, some little inkling of grace. We all come to this room as sinners. Okay, we admit it in the presence of the cross of Jesus. But can we also sense in his gaze the awakening of grace within us?